most woven wipes contain plastic, which end up sitting in a landfill, and they break down after 100 years. And finally, when it breaks down into microplastics, they enter our ecosystems, and that's how we end up consuming a ton of microplastics. And so I say sustainable in that perspective, and many of the plastic bags are also not recyclable. They're actually supposed to be thrown away in the trash. And so this is what really sparked our vision in terms of just why not create a flushable wipe brand, right? That is both truly sustainable from the fibers of the wipes to the packaging itself, but also beautifully designed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. This is Grace, and I am so excited to be back with another founder feature. Today, I'm talking to Pailet, the co-founder of LOO, a plant-based wipes brand looking to redefine how consumers view hygiene with their sustainable and flushable wipes. Unlike traditional wipes, LOO's packaging is not only 100% recyclable, but is also beautifully and thoughtfully designed. And they have both scented and unscented options, although I am partial to their scented agave wipes. I loved chatting with LOO and learning all about LOO's sustainability mission, their unique 4-person founding team, and everything it took to create a first-of-its-kind product. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, let me know what you think.
Hey friends, as you know, the Startup CPG podcast has become a top 0.5% world podcast thanks to your reviews. I wanted to shout some out here. Mugsy Bake says, we are emerging CPG brand approved. They shared they found their food scientist through our Slack channel, which you can join at startupcpg.com. Barbara from Uncle's Ice Cream says the podcast and Slack channel are a must. She loves the top-notch guests and the special offers we bring. Morning Night Marketing said this podcast is a must listen for all facets of the industry. Thanks a lot. If you can rate us, go to ratethispodcast.com/startupcpg. Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Startup CPG podcast. This is Grace, and today I am so excited to be joined by Pailet, the co-founder of LOO. So welcome to the show, Wu. I'd love for you to introduce yourself and your brand to our listeners.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Wu, and I'm a co-founder and head of marketing for LOO. And LOO is a plant-based flushable wipes brand with fully sustainable packaging. So it's 100% recyclable and also sustainable wipes.
Amazing. And yes, as I was just telling Wu before we got on this call, I was lucky enough to try some of LOO's products, and I got to try the agave scented ones. And I was saying the smell makes me feel like I'm at a spa, which is not your typical, wipes experience. So I'd love to start with just why you and your co-founder Angela decided to create LOO, and why did you feel like it was a necessary product in the market?
Yeah, so amongst my fellow co-founders are actually four little ones. I grew up in a household where wipes were part of our daily lives, and because they're just more hygienic. And one day we were talking about how there's just plastic packaging everywhere. It's stuffed in our bags, on countertops, basically in just every corner of our house. And so we were curious, why something so essential to our lives and our daily lives had to really compromise on design and sustainability. And so, the reason I say sustainability also is because actually most woven wipes contain plastic, which end up sitting in a landfill, and they break down after 100 years. And finally, when it breaks down into microplastics, they enter our ecosystems. And that's how we end up consuming a ton of microplastics. And so I say sustainable in that perspective. And many of the plastic bags are also not recyclable. They're actually supposed to be thrown away in the trash. And so this is what really sparked our vision in terms of just why not create a flushable wipe brand, right? That is both truly sustainable from the fibers of the wipes to the packaging itself, but also beautifully designed. Wait, sorry. Can I go back to that last part, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So this is what sparked our vision. And really, we were thinking about why not create a flushable wipe that's both truly sustainable from the wipes from the fibers of the wipes and then to the packaging itself, and have it be beautifully designed. And so we saw an opportunity to redefine the market by offering a product that not only performs well, but also looks good in your home so you're proud to leave it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, how did you and Angela meet to like come up with this idea? Was it like friendship or colleagues, or how did you guys come together?
Yeah, so our whole co-founding team, it's a team of 4. And so we met through the network, just networking, and then all just kind of became friends. And so that's where we kind of kept in touch and just had conversations around different ideas and projects. And this was the one that really resonated with us the most on a personal level, but also just really trying to make a difference in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Networking is key. It's what I've on the last like 3 interviews I've done, everybody's just been like, you have to network, you have to network. And you guys are a co-founding team born out of networking. So that's just another example. But yeah, so returning a little bit to the product itself. So once you guys decided, okay, we think there's really a market for this beautiful, sustainable wipe product. What were your kind of first steps to actually going about creating it? And what was your expertise that you were bringing? It sounds like maybe marketing, but what were you all sort of bringing to the table that could help you take these first steps to actually creating a product?
On our co-founding team, we actually have a head of product and head of design who have extensive experience in the CPG space in terms of product development. And they have worked on some really incredible brands and really amazing projects. And so where we started was doing deep research into the plant-based fibers to be able to determine, all right, what is going to have the necessary strength, but also softness for that premium quality in terms of the wipe. And then, but we need to make sure that they disintegrate easily in the water to ensure flushability. And so that was something that we really wanted to put in our time and energy into. And so with that, our wipes are made with a higher percentage of natural plant pulp than most other wipes, precisely for these reasons. And then from that is also the rigorous testing that goes into the actual flushability. And so we are GD4 compliant per INDA's regulations. And that is a series of 7 different tests to really prove flushability and how well your wipes are flushable. On the packaging side, sorry.
No, keep going.
Okay. On the packaging side, it was especially critical for us to kind of break away from the conventional, flat plastic bags. And so we wanted to come up with a fully recyclable solution that can be easily disassembled and broken apart. And the other component that was key for us was to design a premium product that would look good in people's homes and especially had gender neutral branding. And so with the gender neutral branding, really what that does is simplifies the shopping experience for consumers. So with certain consumers who buy products, share product with partners or family members, it makes it much more convenient. And so those were areas that we were very much mindful of. And then there's also our juice. And so there's actually a number of toxic chemicals that are linked to just rising health concerns. And so, for example, like phthalates, they're linked to hormone disruptors. They're commonly found in synthetic fragrances. Many conventional wipes like makeup remover wipes, antibacterial wipes, baby wipes, personal care wipes, like the list goes on, actually contain parabens, which is a synthetic preservative to increase shelf life. And so with all of these things considered, knowing these realities, it was really important for us to kind of commit to a clean, non-toxic, safe ingredients in our juice. And so our juice is paraben-free, phthalates-free, and produced on dedicated production lines as well to prevent any contamination from other chemicals like toxins and dyes.
Wow, that's so cool. And you guys have really kind of considered each element, which is really impressive because I think sometimes we maybe consider the sustainable packaging, but maybe less what's in it. Or we consider what's in it, but we have less sustainable packaging. So I'm just impressed that you guys sound like you've really considered all aspects. And I was saying to you, I don't really use wipes. And as you were talking, I was like, yeah, I don't really use wipes because I've been like scared of the plastic Clorox wipe things. And I haven't used any since like the pandemic when we were all like just so scared that we would use anything. So as you were saying that, I was like, oh, wow, now I can use these wipes and not feel like, oh, if I wipe my countertop with this and then I, am cooking food, that's a like scary combination to have those chemicals near something I would be eating. So you're kind of making me realize my own need.
Yes, I actually wanted to clarify one thing. So our wipes are specifically for the bathroom.
Oh, well.
Just wanted to make that one note.
I think I did read that before we started. And then in my brain, I was just thinking about the times I have used wipes. And it was like literally the pandemic when we were all like using wipes on our packaging to like clean the food before we run into the house. So anyway, I'll use these in my bathroom. But I have actually many, many moons ago when I was like an undergrad in college and was just like, what's the easiest thing to use? Used wipes in my bathroom. So again, now I could feel less nervous about using these wipes in my bathroom. So that's great. But anyway, back to your product and not my own feelings about wipes. Speaking of how people feel about wipes and who uses wipes, who do you guys see this product really being for? And who are you really kind of trying to market it to as the person with the marketing expertise?
Yeah, I would definitely say there's a number of different folks in our audience. So there's obviously the kind of eco-conscious shopper, people who really value sustainability and prefer products, right, that also value the same. So with the recyclable packaging and minimizing environmental impact. And then there's also kind of parents entering parenthood or caregivers, because again, wipes, they're super convenient to use and effective for children and any family use. And then especially from our design standpoint, I would definitely say more design oriented buyers. And so consumers who really appreciate kind of that aesthetically pleasing product that fit into their lifestyle and also their home decor. Mm-hmm. And so I think those are really a lot of the key audiences that we have in mind. Mm-hmm. And especially from a regional perspective, New York City is one of our bigger audiences. Not just because we are based out here, but B, also because in terms of flushability, New York City has one of the oldest sewer systems. And so from a flushability standpoint, so like I use them at home and I live in Brooklyn, and I haven't had any issues or any fear from that standpoint. And so I think if we can really dominate this region and prove flushability, then that is something that we can easily go out to in terms of sewer systems and septic systems.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And how have you been sort of getting LOO into people's hands in New York City? Are you guys, focusing on online, or have you been like seeking out, small retail partnerships or large retail partnerships? How have you been, getting LOO into people's hands?
Yeah, so there's definitely it's a multi-channel approach in terms of getting our product into customers' hands. And so that includes everything from our website, where we highlight our design and sustainability story. Mm-hmm. And then we also leverage our social channels and gifting to influencers who align with our views and give us that exposure to potential customers through their audiences and community. We also partner with, two of the most premium indie retail locations in New York City, such as Pop-Up Grocer and Have Your Grocery. We've had amazing sampling opportunities. So one of them being a Startup CPG's Discotopia event at Newtopia Now, which was really fun and exciting. And then we also recently did a Founders Friday event at Happier Grocery. And so our focus really has been creating an authentic connection with our audience and blending that online visibility with in-person experience to drive engagement and brand awareness.
We'll be right back.
Are you ready to get fancy? Fancy foods, that is. I am so excited for one of my favorite events of the year. It's Specialty Food Association's Winter Fancy Food Show. It feels like only yesterday we just rocked their summer show in New York, but actually the epic winter show is right around the corner in Las Vegas this January. I love exhibiting at or just walking the winter show. The ratio of buyers to brands is fantastic. You get those awesome West Coast natural buyers, you get national chains, distributors, and I personally think brands from our community can really stand out at the show and get a ton of value. And for the first time ever, Startup CPG will have a huge presence. We're going to have a 20-booth dedicated section. We're going to be running a female founder lounge. We'll have a main stage panel with Whole Foods, Bristol Farms, Grocery Outlet, and Thrive Market. You know we're bringing brands up to quick pitch them, and we'll have opportunities to match you up with retailers for meetings at our booth. Learn more at specialtyfood.com. And if you're going, make sure to join us on Slack, the Winter Fancy Foods channel, to find out about all of the cool events we'll be doing. See you there.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree that, the sampling is so important, especially for a product that does kind of have a negative connotation to it sometimes. So showing people no, it's not what the picture you have in your mind of a wipe, I feel like is so important for something that's kind of creating a new image of what a wipe can be. And that's something I know you guys talk about on your website, which is this idea of destigmatizing the use of wipes. So could you speak a little bit to that aspect of LOO?
Yeah, so one of the things, it's interesting that you mentioned that in terms of the sampling experience, because especially I think people have been so trained to just expect wipes in plastic bags. And so really the first initial reaction when people see our packaging and our product and are holding it in their hands, they're very surprised by the format. And so that alone is a huge component to be able to, as you mentioned, right, in terms of destigmatizing. And so it's one of those things for the most part, if you were to ask any wipes user, if they have it in their bathroom, right, and they know that someone is coming over, you immediately want to tuck it away, hide it somewhere, because you don't want to be outed by your guests of oh, you're a wipes user. And so there's multiple ways that we kind of approach in terms of the destigmatizing the actual use of wipes as adults. So that's transparency, I think, in terms of the education. So for example, as we talk about some of the toxic ingredients that you typically find, even just down to the reality of, microplastics in a lot of different plastic woven wipes. And so having that education, I think, is critical in terms of explaining why this behavior is important. But then also the format of our packaging, especially the design element of it, is something great. Because you want to leave it out, it's part of, your daily life and not something you feel like you have to hide per se.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And, make everyone feel proud of their cleaning products. It's definitely not the norm. You definitely are usually stashing them away underneath your sink or in a closet or something. So making everyone feel proud of your cleaning materials. I love it. And speaking of, feeling proud of the design and people being drawn to that design, I know you guys have also received really positive feedback, not only from customers, but also from, people in the industry. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that feedback and recognition of your design.
Yeah, we've had really, really positive feedback. I think one of the moments that truly took our breath away was being featured in Dieline, which, for most CPG brands and brands that really focus on packaging design, it is the most influential platform. And so we are so grateful to have had the opportunity and incredibly humbled by everyone's support and positive responses that we received, especially given the fact that what we're trying to do is blending kind of the mission of creating a sustainable solution, but also looks beautiful. And so that was a real pinch me moment for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always so nice to get that recognition in a formal way where you can point to it or send someone the link and say, hey, look, and it's not just, a passing customer, which is also lovely, of course, to meet a customer and have them say that they love your product. So both are nice, and I'll agree. When I saw your packaging, I was really impressed, and definitely it's not something I've seen before. So I just lost my train of thought. Well, it happens to us all, doesn't it? So obviously you guys are at Newtopia now, sampling at our Discotopia party. But what are some other things you have coming up in the future, and how are you approaching, different things like that in terms of the niche you're in? How are you approaching doing things like Newtopia now or other future trade shows potentially? Are you guys investing in that process at all, or are you focusing more on, New York City sampling?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So one of the bigger moments, I think, for any CPG brand is Expo West. And so we are going to be joining Startup CPG and a part of the floor there. Yep, exactly. So excited. And so to be able to attend such a trade show and such a large event of that scale, especially as a new brand that we're just starting out, that is very, very exciting for us. And so we're already starting just kind of the logistics and the planning for all of that. And so that's something we have really to look forward to in our future. And then from a sampling standpoint, it is something New York City is largely where we're looking at. But of course, if we have opportunities to sample elsewhere, that is exciting for us as well. And then from a brand and a, kind of product perspective, we're really focusing on kind of scaling efficiently, and making sure that we're expanding our product line with more innovative solutions that align with the needs of our customers, but we're also exploring new fragrance offerings. So we're super excited to hopefully be able to reveal a new one in the near future. And so that's a big goal of ours right now.
That's very exciting. I'm sure you probably can't say it, but I'm so curious what the fragrance is going to be. But I love the agave fragrance. Like I said, it feels like a spa. So I'll be curious to see what else you guys have. And I'm sure you'll have it, or hopefully you'll have it at our intersection at Expo West. And obviously you were saying this, but there's so much planning, logistics, and also resources that go into doing things like Expo West. So I'd love to chat a little bit about how you are managing the resources of being an early stage brand, doing things like Expo West, which can be so impactful for your brand, but also you need the cash to do it. So how are you guys trying to find that balance between, investing in your business while also staying, financially sustainable?
Yeah. When we say sustainable, it's in every way, shape, and form for us, internally, externally, as a team, as a brand. And so for us, from a resource standpoint, Expo West, and I think just trade shows in general, it's right. There's a lot of waste and kind of. Sorry, let me think about this. What's a good way to say this? So, okay, sorry, let me backtrack.
Yeah.
So, large trade shows like Expo West, there's so much that goes into it, so many materials, time, money. And so for us, what we are trying to really think about and be mindful of, especially, is just how can we be present and really be known as a brand and make sure that we're maximizing that opportunity to be there and to be able to talk to, the right folks, buyers, retailers, etc. But at the same time, also not be wasteful. And so that's something that we're very conscious of and trying to understand and be mindful about. And so we're thinking about how can we do this very cost effectively, but at the same time also not leave a ton of materials at the end of the show. And because that's just a sad reality of these types of events where, you know, you put in so much to build a structure and have your space be seen. But then at the same time, you know, when the event is over, then it just kind of sits in a pile. So that's something that we're trying to be mindful of from a resource standpoint, but also financially, of how can we do this cost effectively, but let's also be hyper cautious about, we want to do this. We want to have a really good moment, and we want to be out there and be present and seen, but we also don't want to be wasteful. And so we're trying to be mindful of that fact and trying to minimize kind of the waste that could be potentially left after an event.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is such a sad reality of these trade shows. And people are, when you're leaving them, people are like pushing product on you because they don't want it to go to waste. And it feels a little bit contradictory, right? Because so many of the products that are at these shows are like sustainable and trying to like combat waste in our society. But then the nature of these trade shows kind of encourages waste and sort of makes it really hard to avoid. So I love that you guys are already thinking about that and prioritizing that, especially as you've said, you're a sustainability focused brand. So if that's a pillar of your mission, you know, it feels important to do that in all ways, as you said, externally, internally, all of the above. I love hearing that that's, you know, a priority for you guys. Another thing you mentioned that I wanted to come back to is thinking about finances in general, and how to be, you know, financially secure, and also like how to pay yourselves if you are paying yourselves. So that's something I wanted to ask is, have you guys, you know, invested your own money? Have you sought outside investment? And are you able to take a salary yet? Or is that something you sort of like have savings for, or you know, do you have another job? Just want to get a little bit into the nitty gritty of the finances, which I know can feel a little tricky to talk about sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we have fully bootstrapped the business, and so among ourselves, and so we have invested personally, each of us, and we're definitely not paying ourselves out right now. And so we have largely fundraised through friends and family and those close to us in terms of who believe in us as a team and people, but also believe in what we're trying to do. And so that's largely how we have gotten by. We're the last thing that we're basically trying to push that out from a perspective of everything that we're generating should absolutely go back into the business to fuel our growth versus paying ourselves out at this point.
And how are you managing, you know, not taking a salary? How is that? Do you have savings from a previous job? Or, you know, I just love to talk about these things because I think sometimes founders are like, well, how do you not have a salary? Like, how is that even possible? So yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I will obviously speak for myself specifically, but for me, it's just I really wanted, and I think as an entrepreneurial spirit, it's something that I've always wanted to do. And just throughout my career, especially as a marketer and having worked for other founders in my past lives, I've observed so many different things in both, you know, just kind of larger corporate settings, but also especially startup settings. And so I've always had the dream to be able to do something, but exactly to your point, having a solid savings and feeling comfortable to take that leap financially was a big component and variable to actually be able to pull that trigger. And so for me, yes, it is something that I held off intentionally to be in a place where I felt comfortable, but I also felt like I had more experience, a solid savings to be able to say, okay, I'm going to try this and go out there and do this now.
We'll be right back. Are you paying a ton in shipping to send out products, samples, and whatever else? The fees really add up, but lucky for you, we now have a partner that gets you access to the discounted shipping rates that are usually only available to those big companies. I worked with them for my last beverage brand, and I can tell you they definitely got us savings. Whether you're sending overnight samples, fulfilling e-commerce orders, or even a 40-foot ocean container, our partner, Enterprise Purchasing Group, or EPG, has got you covered. There are a bunch of free benefits you can get by signing up with them. You can get up to an 86% discount on small parcel shipments from UPS, DHL Express, UPS, and more. You get really competitive LTL and FTL rates through UPS. You get discounted spot and fixed ocean rates through Flexport and Maersk. You get exclusive air freights, and you also get preferential terms with supply chain financing. All you need to do is reach out to Francis Agas. His email is francis, Francis, at enterprisepurchasing.com. Mention the Startup CPG discount and take advantage of those savings. Good luck, everybody, and happy shipping. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And it requires so much of your kind of mental energy to be a founder. You know, you probably think about it, it's your baby. You think about it all day, every day. So
Yes.
I think it's so important, you know, for you to feel secure in other parts of your life. So you have a bit of a runway where you can just focus on the business and not be stressed about, you know, money or, you know, other things, which it's hard not to be stressed about money, of course, but it's helpful to have a little bit of a runway. So yeah, I appreciate you chatting about it and you know, being honest and forthcoming, because I think it's important to talk about, even though nobody really likes talking about money. I wish nobody had to talk about money, but it is the unfortunate reality. So speaking of other challenging things, I'd love to hear what has been one of the biggest challenges you've faced while creating LOO. And this could be on a personal level, like just you, or this could be, you know, on a team level, or, you know, brand level.
I think, yeah, that's a really good question. One of the most challenging moments, I think, was definitely finding the right suppliers and manufacturers. Especially because of what we're trying to do, where it's completely different format. It's a new format compared to what is typically out there and typically produced. And so finding someone, especially a manufacturer who really believed in our concept for LOO was tough. And so we actually got a lot of rejections in the beginning, but was able to find somebody who not only had the right materials and equipment, but also the willingness to invest their time into developing our unique product with us. So it was a bit of a journey to find the right partners who would align with our vision, especially given just our emphasis on sustainability and quality. And so, you know, kind of to overcome this, we had to do a lot of the R&D and prototyping in-house.
Absolutely. And it's hard for me to even imagine how you would R&D a product like this in-house. So was this like you in your kitchen, or how did you R&D this before finding a manufacturer?
Yeah, so that, again, this is where really I think the way that our team is comprised is super unique and special. And so we have such experts in individual areas. And so Angela is an absolute veteran in head of sale, and she's in sales. Excuse me. Angela is an absolute veteran in sales, and my background comes from marketing. And then Ed, we have, he's an engineer, and so he is, you know, he's the one who has been leading a lot of the R&D, but also alongside of our fourth co-founder, Dan. Excuse me. Alongside our other co-founder, Dan, who is head of design. And I mean, between the two of them, they're an absolute powerhouse in terms of just the research and the development and all the prototyping that we've done. So I think that's the unique component to especially our company and our brand, is just the strength of our team. Mm-hmm. So that was how we were able to do that in-house.
Yeah. And I hear often, you know, people who are founders saying they wish they had a co-founder, or co-founders saying how grateful they feel to have a co-founder. But I'm also curious with, you know, for people who are kind of co-founders, so for people who have a really big stake in this company, has there ever been any challenges in terms of like communicating or really anything with having sort of a larger co-founding team?
I would say no major challenges. It is the beauty of it is that because we are basically SMEs in our individual areas, the good part is that we all trust each other from that perspective. Okay, you're the expert. And so we absolutely trust your guidance and your thoughts and your counsel on XYZ matters. And so that's been a huge component to really how we're moving forward and pushing the business forward. And so I would say maybe the only challenge is, I do miss that office kind of environment of just like all being together. We're kind of sprinkled out in different areas. But luckily all East Coast time, Eastern Standard Time. So that is the good news. But I think that's the one component where, I think there's a lot of like ideation and brainstorming and just kind of it's a different energy being in office. So maybe that's one big challenge that I kind of miss, or even not a challenge. Maybe that's a challenge that, we haven't had before. But outside of that, it's been pretty seamless.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love what you said about really trusting each other and each being experts. And that definitely, I'm sure, really makes it easier to delineate, who's doing what. And, so often founders feel like they have to wear every single hat. And it's nice that you have, 4 people who are each wearing different hats. So you can spread the wealth a little bit in terms of the effort and the load that is required. Although I'm sure it's still a lot of effort and load required. But so on the flip side of challenges is what's something you're most proud of, since founding LOO?
I would say we officially entered the market in mid-July. And when we look back at just kind of all of the incredible moments that we've had this year, I think one of the bigger things that we're proud of is being able to just turn an idea into reality. And that's something my co-founders and I are extremely proud of, especially because we know that this type of journey of being an entrepreneur is not an easy task at all. And so when we look back at, basically starting from day one to launch of this year in mid-July, so much of our time and our energy and care and, all the TLC that has gone into it, has really been able to, all the TLC that has gone into it has been why we were able to basically turn our vision into a real product and have it in stores. And so honestly, at times when I go into the stores that we're in and I see it on shelf and it's just like a moment where I'm like, oh, wow, like it's actually here. I'm like, it's in front of, it's sitting on a shelf. Like, this is incredible. And so being able to see that, especially as an entrepreneur, I think is something, it's a moment that it's not lost on us at all.
Absolutely. Being able to take something from an idea to a real product in and of itself is truly so impressive. And everybody who does it should feel very, very proud of themselves, including the whole LOO team. And how long, just out of curiosity, how long did it take from day one, would you say, till mid-July when you launched?
From day one to launch, that was about 1.5 years. And so that was truly the time spent in terms of perfecting the product. And so product development to the research, to the testing, to iterating and just really improving on each round. And so that was a lot of labor and love that we put in. And so we're excited to actually be out there and have something on the market that people are enjoying, and getting the positive feedback has been super exciting for us.
Absolutely. So my final question is just, if you were to go back to that day one, 1.5 years ago, or a little over 1.5 years ago now, what piece of advice would you give that day one woo setting out to create this brand? Or what would you tell another founder who's on their day one of creating, taking this idea and making it a reality?
Awesome question. I would say for anyone on day one, I would say to be persistent. It's there are days because of that journey in the beginning when you're really trying to solve the problem and come up with a solution. You know, it's not always it's not like a walk in the park, right? Like it's a difficult journey and there's ups and downs. And so there are moments where something doesn't work, right? Like as you maybe had predicted or wanted from a product perspective or anything else. And so I would just say being persistent is super key and in really turning the idea to a product. And so, yes, there are moments where it feels like, oh man, this feels impossible. But I would just say to kind of continue through that. And tomorrow is a whole nother day and just try again and persist. And sometimes like there will be an actual end and a light at the end of the tunnel. So yeah, persistence is definitely key.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice and something probably everyone needs to hear every single day if they're creating a brand. But yeah, last question is just where can people learn more about LOO and follow along on your journey?
All of our fun activities and the fun stuff that we're up to is typically posted about, and we talk about it on our social channels. And you can follow us at LOO Wipes. And then we also have our email newsletter, and you can sign up for those at loowipes.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so much fun to learn more about LOO and your journey to creating it. And I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would help us out so much if you left a 5-star review on ratethispodcast.com/startupcpg. I am Grace Kennedy, the host of the Founder Feature Series, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Slack. I'm always on the hunt for new and exciting brands to feature. And if you're a potential sponsor who would like to appear on the podcast, please email partnerships@startupcpg.com. And finally, as a reminder for anyone listening, if you haven't already, we would love for you to join our community on Slack. You can sign up via our website, startupcpg.com.